I'm here to tell you about a world so outrageous it sounds like it could never be true. A world they've told you is too complex to understand. You've heard conspiracies about the elite, billionaires, the 1%. And I'm here to tell you they do indeed live above the law, but they don't use supernatural powers to do it. They have much more nefarious means. They've set up legal loopholes that only they can enjoy. In this series, I'm going to tell you how these strange and bizarre systems work and how they ultimately destroy our onshore world. Welcome to the Offshore. Why are some of the world's greatest artworks locked up in secret maximum security vaults? And how are people getting richer off of this heist? We're here to break down how the rich live above the law, set up systems to do it, and fuck over the rest of us. Welcome to Offshore. When you think of art heists, you probably think of George Clooney devising clever schemes to get around authorities. Well, the ultra-rich are stealing art in less cool, but way more infuriating ways. How and why are the rich doing this? And where's all the art going? Welcome to the Geneva Freeport. Please keep your arms, legs, and taxable capital gains in the Freeport at all times. A Freeport is basically a fortress of tax-free, high-security, secretive offshore storage. There are tons of them in the world, like little offshore hidey holes, where anything goes. The idea goes back to antiquity, like the Greek island of Delos. The Romans turned it into a Freeport around 166 BC and became a sexy, wild, rowdy trading hub for the wealthy in the Mediterranean region. They traded 10,000 slaves a day. Look, Freeports are a common sense idea. If you're transporting wheat from, say, Ukraine to the United Kingdom and have to stop in Italy to get gas, you shouldn't have to pay Italian taxes on goods that are still in transit to their final destination. The rich locked onto this common sense system and twisted it to fit their needs. Systems meant to keep goods from being double taxed are often abused in the offshore to make goods never taxed. Freeports sprung up around the world as investors look for more black holes for dodging taxes, laundering monies, or fuck it, why not, financing extremists. Look out, it's another tax black hole! Ah! Except for this time, you can also fund extremism and stuff! Ah! There's one man most often credited for turning Freeports from grain storage to offshore hideouts for billionaire art collectors. Yves Bouvier, also known as the King of Freeports. Bouvier is a Swiss national whose family was in the furniture storage and art transport business. As Swiss banks lost their prestige as tax havens, he had the genius idea to combine tax-free ports, originally meant for temporary storage of perishable items, with the most unregulated, opaque, ultra-rich market in the world, art. He's even gone on to open his own Freeports in Singapore and Luxembourg. More on him later. Let's continue our tour of the Geneva Freeport, shall we? It started in 1888, and it's now essentially a fortress. With meticulous temperature and humidity controls, state-of-the-art security with rooms conceived as impenetrable vaults, explosive-resistant armored doors, and biometric locks. This is where I'd want to give you a detailed tour of what we believe to be in the Geneva Freeport, but I can't. And that's a huge reason why this place has thrived. The art industry is one of the most secretive industries in the world, and the Geneva Freeport, in the same tradition as Swiss banks, is a black box of secrets. They weren't even legally required to keep an inventory of what's in here until 2007. I can also tell you that the masterpieces secretly kept behind these walls have an estimated value of $100 billion. It's estimated the number of artworks stored in the Freeport is around 1.2 million. For comparison, the MoMA in New York City has about 200,000 pieces. Reports estimate up to 1,000 Picassos at the Geneva Freeport. And it's not just art either. There are all types of luxury items growing in value tax-free, including classic cars, luxury watches, wines, and ancient Egyptian and Roman artifacts. All right, folks, one final note before we end our tour of the Geneva Freeport. Before entering this building, you were in Geneva, Switzerland. But until 2007, the country of Switzerland didn't even recognize this building as its own territory. No one recognized it. You're here, but you're not. You exist, but we're not tethered by a nation state, morals, or reality. You're in the offshore now, and you're never, ever going to leave. So how did we get to this? How did we get to world-renowned art coming off walls and getting placed in dark layers to accumulate value tax-free instead of being enjoyed by anyone at all? It's hard to pinpoint what the moment was that art turned from an enjoyable trophy of the rich to a pure investment vehicle of ultra-rich individuals and Wall Street firms. I can tell you this though. In 2015, Lawrence Fink, chairman of BlackRock, the largest investment firm in the world, said contemporary art had usurped gold as a store of wealth. And it's picking up steam. The top 10 most expensive paintings ever sold happened in the last 15 years, even if you adjust for inflation. The Card Players by Paul Cézanne sold for more than $250 million. Interchanged by William D. Cooney sold for an estimated $300 million. Finally, number one all time on the list of most expensive paintings ever sold was the Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci, bought for $450 million by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, which is reportedly displayed on his yacht. Oh, check out that cleavage on Jesus. Hubba hubba. These are just the prices we know. And that gets us to the biggest reason art has exploded as an investment asset over the last several decades. The art market is the least regulated market in the world. Auction houses have no obligation to report who's selling a piece of art or who's buying a piece of art. Often in private sales, a piece of art can be sold from one shell company to another, all using cash, and the IRS relies on these private parties to self-report their profits. Good fucking luck with that. The money laundering and tax fraud elements of the offshore are awful, but what I always find the most interesting about this thing is what's technically legal. That's where the free ports thrive. If all the booming art investment returns and the art market being incredibly underregulated wasn't enough, how about I put a little cherry on top? It's all tax-free. I promised you a heist, so here it is. I go to an auction for a piece of art. I outbid any museum or institution that might plan on displaying that art. I can pay a much higher price because I have one little trick up my sleeve. I don't pay taxes. As soon as I get my hands on the art, I'm gone. No alarms tripped, no evidence left behind. In fact, I bought it through a shell corporation with cash, so there's no record of my involvement. Next, I stash my goods in the safest place any crook could dream of, a tax-free port. I mean, it's crazy this place even exists. It's like a legal place for villains, like a country club to hide all my loot. And we just hang out and we play cards and we talk, what'd you steal? I stole this, whatever. You can't talk about it. It's a shell corporation, it's cash. All you have to do is claim your stash is permanently in transit and they can't touch you. I sit in those goods for a couple years, watch that thing skyrocket in price, higher than any traditional investment could. Without the goods ever leaving the free port, I find a buyer willing to pay a higher price. He buys it through a shell corporation with cash too, just like me. Because using a shell corporation is like the billionaire version of putting on a ski mask. The only people that know about this deal are your shell corporation, my shell corporation, and God above. The buyer and seller don't even know who each other are. And just like that, boom, I'm out, scot-free. Cash in hand, no sales tax, no capital gains tax, the art stays hidden and never seen again. Another successful offshore heist. All that anonymity can break when the ultra-rich go after each other. We love a juicy rich guy feud that exposes all their schemes. In 2015, that's what happened. Back to Yves Bouvier. For many years, Bouvier used his status as the Freeport King to gain insider knowledge of who owned what pieces of art. He would claim to be acting as a broker for a buyer taking a 2% cut, while in reality, he would be buying the painting himself, then resell that painting to his client for huge profit margins, sometimes as high as $100 million on one painting. It all hit newspapers when his client, Russian oligarch Dmitry Roblev, sued him for fraud. Roblev had bought Reclining Nude with Blue Cushion by Modigliani for $118 million. By pure luck, Roblev was at a party in St. Bart's and met someone that knew the real seller of the painting they told him that the painting was actually sold for $93.5 million, he got screwed. Bouvier scammed him of $24.5 million on this one painting, and much more over the 34 other paintings they did business on. Roblev accused Bouvier of stiffing him out of more than $1 billion throughout the course of their relationship. Bouvier was eventually indicted on fraud and money laundering charges. We love to see it. This is the world we're dealing with. A world so secret and so rich that hundreds of millions of dollars can be scammed and no one even fucking notices. They only found out about this because they met at a party one day. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have no idea what else is going on out there. The kryptonite of the offshore is public knowledge. Criminal investigations into stolen goods in the Geneva Freeport led to somewhat tighter regulations. But in those regulations, there are loopholes. If you don't like those loopholes, well, you can take your business to another Freeport. The most messed up part of this is that now that the ultra wealthy and gigantic investment companies have entered the game, more and more art will be coming off the walls and going to these tax-free storage facilities. They are literally incentivized to never let us see this culturally significant art ever again. Art is meant to be enjoyed. Antiquity is meant to teach us about history. Wine is meant to be drunk with friends and family, to be at a party, not in a storage facility. They turned all this into nothing but a financial instrument hiding away in windowless basements. What is going on? It's disgusting. It's greedy. People, what? I'll leave you with this little tidbit. The Louvre in Paris was once a private museum for the king and his court until the people stormed it in the French Revolution. It's now enjoyed by 7.5 million people a year. That was Offshore. I'll see you on the beach next time. But did you know that companies harness that power to make billions of dollars go away? Do these people get away with it? And how did Google, a company supposedly so into not being evil that they made their motto, "Don't be evil," make billions of dollars disappear by using the numbers?
A lot of companies also evade taxes through tax havens in Switzerland and Bermuda. It's not right.
Biden talks about going after offshore tax avoidance. He would know more than most because his home state of Delaware is its own little corporate paradise. 68% of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated in Delaware. There are more corporations than people in Delaware, which means if you're on Hinge in Delaware, you stand a good chance of getting literally fucked by a corporation. But even with its very chill corporate regulations, Delaware cannot beat out Bermuda. Each offshore island has its own niche. One of Bermuda's is base erosion and profit shifting, or the Bermuda Black Hole. Oh my God! It's a tax black hole! Look out! Huge US multinational corporations use tax loopholes to shift profit from normally taxed countries to Bermuda. And all of this has to do with Bermuda's sweet-ass corporate tax rate. Bermuda's out here beating down the competition, giving corporations the best tax rates in the offshore biz. 35% from Argentina, slash it. 21% from America, easy, slash it. 12.5% from Ireland, slash it. Bermuda taxes corporations at the low deal of 0%. And you know that is too tempting for corporations to pass up. Let me give an example. Take a look at this logo. Iconic. The swoosh was commissioned in 1971 by Phil Knight when he was an assistant professor of accounting at Portland State University. Knight paid $35 to design a logo for his brand Nike. The Nike swoosh is now estimated to be worth $26 billion. The Nike company was created in Oregon. Phil Knight, born and raised in Oregon. Nike is headquartered in Oregon. So the Nike swoosh is Oregonian, right? Nope. Throw some shorts on it, give it a dark and stormy. The Nike logo is Bermudian, baby. At least for tax purposes from the early 2000s to 2014. And we only know about the swoosh's Bermudian status because of the Paradise Papers, a huge leak of documents from an offshore law firm. The Paradise Papers outed leaders from nations all over the world. Trump's Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. His Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross. Queen Elizabeth. And now, King Charles. Celebs like Bono, Madonna. And American companies like Apple, Facebook, McDonald's, Disney, Twitter, Uber, Walmart, Yahoo. And of course, Nike and their little Bermudian swoosh. When all these dealings, they're not technically illegal, come to light, then policies change. But can you keep the biggest, messiest, bitch of a Bermudian scheme quiet? Let me tell you about the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich. It isn't a special at a dive bar. It's also not a pretend sex term that teens made up on Urban Dictionary. It's the name of a heist. It's a heist that uses base erosion and profit shifting, or the Bermuda Black Hole. And the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich is a tricky little maneuver that's hard to keep quiet. Let's look at Apple's use of the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich. They've been doing it since the 80s. They were the best at it, the OGs. Apple sells IP to an Apple-owned Bermuda company for $1. Bermuda Apple sells IP to an Apple-owned Irish company for $100. Apple Irish sells to an Apple-owned Dutch company for $100. Apple Dutch company sells to another Apple-owned Irish company for $100. That's where you get your sandwich. All money winds back to Bermuda, where the $99 profit is taxed at 0% for their corporate tax rate. Then the money can be sent back to America, already taxed, to US Apple. Looks a bit like a triangle, doesn't it? Let's look at another sweet little company. This is the Googleplex outside of Palo Alto. It's Google's big office complex, the one everybody talks about. It's got all kind of crazy stuff. Nap pods, temperature-controlled toilets, slides, massage rooms. There's the volleyball courts right there. It's pretty crazy. It costs a lot of money, about $1 billion to create this Googleplex thing. Get out of here. Get. Google's office in Bermuda was a little bit small. The Googleplex is 2 million square feet. The Bermuda office was less than 1 square foot. The Googleplex has 144,000 employees. The Bermuda office has 0. Google uses Bermuda office for one sole purpose: the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich. Untaxed European profits don't need slides, swimming pools, and nap pods. They just need a $300 a year P.O. box at the post office in Hamilton, Bermuda. That's right, the office is a goddamn P.O. box, which is perfect if they're employing fucking Stuart Little. Remember, they don't have any employees there. You may think this kind of elaborate tax avoidance scheme is a bit immoral and hypocritical for a company whose motto was famously, "Don't be evil." The exact address of this Bermuda office was 56 Church Street, Hamilton, Bermuda, P.O. Box 666. Saints lucky Little on the fucking nose, Google. The Googleplex cost $1 billion. P.O. Box number 666 received $8 billion a year. Some reports have Google making away with over $75 billion total of untaxed revenue before they got caught. Very cool, I guess. But let's go back to Apple. Their abuse of the system was so large and brazen that it created what is known as leprechaun economics. That's when Ireland's GDP jumped 26% in 1 year because of Apple's tax avoidance structures. That's a lot. That's not normal. So that raised questions. The scandal ultimately helped bring down this tax avoidance tool. In 2018, the EU created new regulations that completely destroyed the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich. And that was one messy sandwich. The Offshore runs on secrecy. You can't raise too much attention. New regulations came into place, and of course corporations learned their lesson and stopped trying to find loopholes and turned over a new leaf. Psych! Corporations created new tax avoidance structures and gave them stupid nicknames too. Like the immediate successor of the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich was the single malt, which got its nickname from where the money goes, which is Malta instead of Bermuda. You know, single malt, get it, Malta. Corporations will never stop looking for tax avoidance structures. Their entire existence has one sole purpose: maximize shareholder value. And not paying taxes? Well, yeah, that sure helps create shareholder value. There are ideas out there, solutions like the global minimum corporate tax rate, which has been passed by 137 countries, but not quite ours. For now, the rich keep getting richer, and their accountants keep coming up with dumb names for how they do it. Ahoy, motherfuckers! Why are wealthy people throwing up flags for random countries on their damn boats? And how does this help them get richer and avoid rules like, say, paying their workers? Are mega yachts mega fucked? Or are companies and the rich getting away with this offshore scheming? Okay, let's get into who's doing this. The big three cruise lines are headquartered in Miami, but they fly flags of offshore countries to avoid regulations and to save money. Norwegian cruises, they fly the flag of our old friend Bermuda.
Carnival Cruises flies half and half mix of Panama and the Bahamas. Oh. And the Royal Caribbean Cruise is based out of the beautiful Caribbean country of Liberia, which is actually in Africa and not the Caribbean. Don't tell me what to do, I'm cruising, baby! Who else is doing this? Larry Ellison, founder of software giant Oracle, has the Cayman's flag out for his super yacht. Trump Education Secretary Betsy DeVos's 164-foot family yacht was registered in the Caymans, despite being docked in Huron, Ohio. So much for America first, I guess. Amazon founder and wannabe space cowboy Jeff Bezos has a mega yacht that recently made news in the Netherlands for being so large they plan to remove a bridge so it could get out to the ocean. So does this American billionaire, known for exploiting American warehouse workers, have an American yacht? No, of course not. It's also registered in the Caymans. So we'll talk about how the fuck they do this. But first, why the fuck they do this. You skip on taxes, safety, and wages. You're not taxed in your home country, you're just paying a little fee in whatever country you're set up in. What about wages and safety for workers? America has labor laws, but you don't have to worry about those out here on the high seas. Your ship caught up in a disaster, an oil spill? Well, that's the business of you and the country of whatever flag is flapping around on the back of your boat. So when did all this start? After the Titanic sunk in 1912, a worker safety and protection law was passed, the American Seamen's Act of 1915. Big boat businessmen were like, we don't want to have to deal with all these ridiculous, unfair rules like having food on board for sailors, letting them sleep, or having silly little lifeboats. So they registered ships in offshore countries. Open boat registries were set up in countries that allowed your boat and the business of that boat to follow the much more chill rules of those far-flung countries, as opposed to your home country, or the country where the business makes its money. That would make too much sense. All legal, shady, but legal. The ocean industry, mostly cargo ships, oil platforms, and tankers, is dominated by boat registries in Panama, Liberia, and the Marshall Islands. All in all, flags of convenience are a big part of the sea biz and its problems. Take the example of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig. Remember that little incident? It was a floating semi-submersible drilling unit, so sort of a boat. Anyway, it exploded and spilled 210 million gallons of oil, devastating marine life and resulting in the worst ecological disaster in US history. Investigations showed a clear lack of safety concerns. And that was made all the more possible when you're flying the flag of a country with insufficient, unenforced regulations like the Marshall Islands. Of all the industries to fly the least regulated flags, it's the oil industry. The dirtiest, oiliest, grossest, most ecological disaster waiting to happen. Can we regulate one industry that's destroying our world? They can't be trusted. So what about this cruise ship? Let me tell you about the Nordic Empress. In 1993, the Coast Guard caught the ship owned by Royal Caribbean, dumping oil in the ocean by the Bahamas. They eventually discovered a conspiracy to save money on all their boats by dumping waste into the ocean. Royal Caribbean denied all this and said, you can't come after us anyways because we fly the flag of Liberia. What the fuck is up with the Empress? She's Caribbean, she's Nordic, she's really Liberian. Who the fuck knows? Consider me unimpressed. Guess who else uses flags of convenience? The kings of the offshore. You know them, you hate them. The Russian oligarchs. These fuckers. And as you might have seen, some of their tacky-ass mega yachts are getting chased down at ports around the world. So, what's going on here? Remember, Russian oligarchs are essentially incredibly wealthy businessmen with extreme political influence. They gained monumental wealth with the privatization of state-run industries after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Now, they're also the guys who got positions of power because they are pals with Putin, and they love their giant yachts. They're essentially just private cruise ships. Roman Abramovich owns the Eclipse. The Eclipse is the world's second longest private yacht, has 2 helipads and 1 mini submarine. It's worth about $500 million. Registered in Bermuda. Or there's Dmitry Kamenshik's super yacht, the Flying Fox, worth about $400 million. Jay-Z and Beyonce have been known to party on. This Russian oligarch might have 99 problems, but picking a flag isn't one. He went with the Cayman Islands for his yacht that houses an actual Turkish bath and a specially designed submarine garage. If you have a Turkish bath on your yacht, that's a cruise ship, my man. Why do these guys all want a private cruise ship? Cruise ships suck. Stay on land. I don't know. What do they want, the buffets and shit? I wouldn't mind owning a yacht, honestly. But now, these yachts are getting hunted down. After the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, countries sanctioned Putin and the oligarchs. Remember, these guys are basically running the country with Putin. The targeted oligarchs hid their wealth in the offshore. so Western countries couldn't get at it. Russian oligarchs' yachts turned their navigation transponders off and sailed to ports where they were less likely to be searched and seized. But you can't just throw a car cover over one of these babies. The Delaware is a giant yacht and it was docked for work in Germany. Its owner was unclear and complicated, but EU officials cracked the case. It's a Russian nesting doll game with these guys. It was owned by a company in the Cayman Islands where it's registered, but that company is owned by another company in Greece, which is then owned by another company in Switzerland. And then it keeps going. That's how shell companies work. They just keep going. Until you get a little guy. Oh, nope, still not it. Still looking for that final shell company. Until we get, oh no, it's even smaller. Little baby Russian oligarch. The center is Russian oligarch Alisher Usmanov. He's our little Russian doll. Little baby oligarch. Claims it's not his yacht, so you can't take it, when in reality, it's owned through several shell companies he set up before finally transferring ownership to his sister. You can't just give something to your sister and pretend it's not yours. This isn't Seventh Heaven, where you get caught with cigarettes and blame it on your sister. Despite all this offshore concealment, in March 2022, Germany seized the boat. When countries have incentive, it seems that then, all of a sudden, they can cut through the offshore bullshit. If you can figure out one of the world's largest yachts is owned by a Russian oligarch and it's in your country's port, then you can sell it and maybe keep some of that money. In Antigua and Barbuda, they just seized a yacht, the Alfa Nero, flagged in the Cayman Islands. It seemed to be owned by Russian oligarch Andrei Guriev, who denied owning it through some shady offshore structure. It has a lot of necessary amenities like a swimming pool that converts into a helipad. Antigua and Barbuda gave the owner 10 days to step forward or they'd auction it off. And no one showed up. Well, that yacht, that's not my yacht. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt bought the boat for $67.6 million. What a steal, practically free. And if you think maybe this money's going to Ukraine or something, well, that's very sweet of you, but also wrong. How about this? Sanctioned oligarch Dmitry Pompiansky's yacht, the Axioma, was seized off of Gibraltar. The yacht ultimately fetched $37.5 million in auction, and U.S. investment bank JP Morgan got the money from the sale. The bank got $23 million back that they previously loaned to a billionaire Russian oligarch for some reason. Flags of convenience as a scam is serious. It's not just money, it's the environment and it's people's lives too. Like, how about this? Cargo boat owners routinely abandon crews on ships in far-flung ports when they deem repairs too costly. A cutter-based company called Aswin Trading and Contracting recently abandoned 3 different ships. Some people were left at sea for over 2 years with no electricity, no running water, and no sanitary facilities. The company confused authorities with their ownership structure. Remember those Russian nesting dolls? And of course, their ships flew with flags of convenience. These people are miles, thousands of miles away from home, getting paid the cheapest amount with no safety, no meals, no sleep, and then at the end, they're just abandoned. Just fly them home. Just finish the job. It's so ridiculous. How much money do you need? Listen, I get it. You're trying to do business. Just take a little bit of responsibility. Just this small. Just stop pretending your boat is in Panama, Liberia, the Marshall Islands, wherever. Stop playing make pretend. Just take this little bit of responsibility. Pay your people. Let them eat. Let them sleep. It's just this much. How much money are you even saving? Please, just a little bit. Here's this last little tidbit. 40% of the ocean ships are flagged in former US colonies, set up by US businessmen, and still sold out of the state of Virginia. So before you think this problem is far away from me, just know it's as American as apple pie. All right, well, I'll see you on the boat next week. That was Offshore. This is the tale of a Saudi billionaire's love life and his relationship with one hot little Caribbean island. We're here to break down how the rich live above the law, set up systems to do it, and fuck over the rest of us. Welcome to Offshore. Today, we're here to talk about Saudi Arabian billionaire Walid Jufali, who made a curious arrangement with St. Lucia. Jufali seemingly tried to use the offshore so he could secretly marry another woman, divorce his current wife without her knowledge, and then avoid paying that woman 238 million pounds. That's like $320 million. But how did he go about a secret marriage and avoid paying £250 million? And did it work?
Walid Jufali was a Saudi billionaire Nepo baby. Like most rich people, he inherited his wealth. His family owned the biggest private company in Saudi Arabia, E.A. Jufali and Brothers. He and his family were insanely loaded, and he was all about that playboy prince life. And Jufali milked that family money and influence to get some sweet lines on the resume, including 2 knighthoods, one from the Vatican and one from Denmark. Rich people participation medals. He also used that money to do what a lot of insanely rich people do, spend it on extravagant cultural shit. He once paid almost $900,000 for a couple of nudes at a charity auction, including one of Kate Moss, which is also like free on the fucking internet. I thought we all learned that like 13. I did. Jufali burst onto the social scene when he married his second wife, Cristina Estrada, a former supermodel, mostly known for being a Pirelli calendar girl. If you don't know, Pirelli is a tire company that for some reason also puts out a yearly calendar featuring naked models for some reason. I don't know. The couple lived the high life for 13 years. Mega yachts, $50K on fur coats yearly, a $1 million firework display for Estrada's 50th birthday. You know, just like normal married shit, like buying an air fryer, except for $1 million in fireworks. They built an underground chalet fortress in Switzerland with imported materials like quartz from Afghanistan, a swimming pool, a 16-car garage, and a spa made with amethyst, Cristina Estrada's birthstone. Thank God her birthstone isn't topaz, because that would be tacky. But sadly, it seemed the only thing money couldn't buy was happiness. So here's where things get a little spicy. In Saudi Arabia, men are allowed to have more than one wife, a max of 4. In 2012, while still married to Estrada, Jufali married a 25-year-old Lebanese model, Loujain Adada. You may know her from a reality show called Dubai Bling. Adada is literally half Estrada's age. He went out and married after her 50th birthday a 25-year-old. Jufali divorced Estrada, apparently without her knowledge, in Saudi Arabia in 2014 under Islamic law. Cristina Estrada found out about all this and was like, what the fuck? So she filed for divorce in England, where they live, for that price of £238 million. That was like... So how did he try to get out of this enormous payout? It seems he thought he could get out of a legal divorce settlement with diplomatic immunity. So let's talk about diplomatic immunity. Basically, while someone is working for their home government in a foreign country, that person cannot be arrested or sued by the foreign country that they're working in. It's a controversial practice because there are people who do very bad things and get away with it using their diplomatic immunity. Like in August 2019, the wife of an American CIA agent killed a guy in England while apparently driving on the wrong side of the road. When your diplomat's wife in another country, driving's like Mario Kart, but with lower stakes. So how does someone get diplomatic immunity? First, you gotta understand, rich people can buy citizenship. In the world of the offshore, countries sell it. While the poor die on makeshift rafts or their children are caged in an attempt to immigrate to another country, the rich collect passports like Pokemon cards. Is my point getting across? Sometimes I don't understand if it's really getting across. They're buying citizenship. I wanna underline that. You don't get to go anywhere else. You have to stay wherever you're at. The rich people, they're buying it. They just buy whatever they want. This is for sale. If you're uber wealthy, sometimes you don't even need citizenship. You can just skip that step and just go right to diplomat status in a country where you don't even live. And seemingly, that's what Jufali did. When confronted with the divorce, he invoked his legal immunity as a diplomat of St. Lucia. Because as it turns out, Jufali was named St. Lucia's permanent representative to the International Maritime Organization, a UN agency for regulating shipping and safety and maritime security. Did Walid Jufali have any known qualifications in maritime law? No. Did he have any special skills or experience related to boats and shit? Also no. But did he live in St. Lucia? Not really. Can he even sail knots or whatever? I don't know. I've never seen him do any boat stuff. I have no idea what's going on. We can't tell you with absolute authority that he paid for his ambassadorship, but we can tell you that Al Jazeera exposed the countries of Dominica and Grenada for selling a very similar diplomatic position. How did this plan come together? So remember back when Cristina Estrada first found out about this secret marriage to the new 25-year-old model? According to the tabloids, she confronted her husband. That's when it seems Jufali made his first trip to St. Lucia. And 4 months later, he got his maritime title. And then once his diplomatic immunity was secured, boom, he rips that cord and does his divorce in Saudi Arabia and basically says, come and get me, I'm a sailor now. But then the High Court in the UK dismissed Juvali's claims as a diplomat.
Dismissed Juvali's claims as a diplomat.
The judge said Juvali's appointment was an entirely artificial construct, and there was no evidence that he has any knowledge or experience of maritime matters. He also said that avoiding UK law was the main reason Juvali got this post. The judge was basically like, we know you're lying about being a maritime expert. Like, everyone's talking about it. Juvali lost the case. He was ordered to pay £75 million in a divorce settlement, one of the largest amounts in English history. It's $110 million. Which was an insane amount of money to me and you, but ultimately, sort of not that big of a deal for someone worth $9 billion. So, fuck everything. I don't even know why he did this. So what's the big lesson here? The key to the offshore is secrecy. It's all legal until there's too much noise. If he'd used his diplomatic immunity to do something simple, like kill a person with his car, he probably would have gotten away with it. You just can't divorce your wife and not quite divorce your wife without making headlines and ruining the whole thing for all the other rich people that bought diplomatic immunity and get away with stuff every day. We know it's an obtainable commodity now. They're out there. They're doing this thing. You just can't make this many headlines. That was Offshore. See you on the beach next week.
Today, we're on the coast of Africa, where many countries are dealing with the consequences of corruption. Corrupt leaders around the world love to use their political power to take their country's wealth via bribes, kickbacks, or simply diverting government funds into their personal pockets, all at the expense of their own people. These dicks are known as kleptocrats, and the offshore plays a key role in helping these kleptocrats stay rich along with their kids, the klepto brats. But what are these lavish lifestyles that these asshole offspring are living? Do they get away with it? Something you quickly see when you look at these kleptocrats around the world. They rule with violence, strip their country's resources, and pocket the money that should have gone to the public good and development of their country. Then, they look around at what they've done to their country and go, yuck. They decide that this is no place for their klepto kid to grow up. Gross. Ugh. They send them off abroad for their education, fancy schools and fancy places. So let's see where some of these loving klepto moms and dads drop their klepto children off at school. Before he was Supreme Leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un was the son of Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il. As a kid, he went to school in Switzerland at the International School of Bern. Because yeah, dude, staying in North Korea would have been totally not supreme. Remember where you came from, a family that pushes illicit activities like human trafficking to fund our luxury ski resort. Chinese President Xi Jinping sent his daughter to Harvard, just like notoriously corrupt CCP party member Bo Xilai's Playboy son. He reportedly lived in a luxury apartment and drove an $80,000 Porsche. I take the bus. And how about those Russians? Putin press secretary Dmitry Peskov's daughter once said Russia's education system is a true hell. I wonder who could fix that. And her dad. This Instagramming socialite went to school in Paris and says she's a self-made woman. She also said US sanctions in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine are unfair. Maybe we should listen to her because she's been literally educated in unfairness. Sergei Lavrov, Putin's foreign affairs minister, that's Mr. We didn't even attack Ukraine and Ukraine is run by neo-Nazis and drug addicts. Anyway, he sent his daughter to Columbia in New York City. Lavrov's stepdaughter, from his other unofficial wife, went to Imperial College and bought a $5.8 million apartment in London when she was 21, according to recent sanctions imposed against her. Honestly, you're not cool unless you have sanctions against you. So what do these klepto-brats actually do with their degrees? Well, Saif al-Islam, son of infamous Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi, went to college in London. And he went on to brutalize his citizens. The Crown Prince of Bahrain went to college in the US and UK. And he went on to brutalize his citizens. Bashar al-Assad, Nepo baby dictator of Syria, spent time training in London as an eye doctor. Can you read those back to me? Does it look better at 1 or 2? Fuck, don't worry. I'm gonna go and brutalize my citizens. So how else do these bookworms spend their expensive time? You know the MTV show My Super Sweet 16, where the rich throw insane parties for their children's 16th birthday, and some of them cry because they get a blue Mercedes instead of a black Mercedes like they asked for? Well, that's the parties hedge fund managers and rappers throw for their kids. Let me tell you about the kind of parties the klepto brats get. They make that over-the-top bar mitzvah you went to look like utter shit. You hear that, Jake? Your sweets table in Air Force One painting station sucked. Everybody thought it was super uncool, unimpressive. Everyone hated it. Isabel dos Santos, daughter of Angola dictator Jose Eduardo dos Santos, once brought Nicki Minaj out to Angola to perform for $2 million. Nicki Minaj posted on her Instagram with Isabel, noting that she supposedly and Nelly Furtado put on shows for them. Nelly Furtado plays for every dictator. I think every dictator said Nelly Furtado. To be fair, what pop star hasn't performed for a family that has blown up a commercial airliner, killing 270 people? Then there's Equatorial Guinea's now Vice President, Teodoro Nguema Obiang, our boy Teddy, a man accused of massive corruption by governments around the world and the son of the world's longest serving ruler. Teddy's dad has a 4-decade run as the country's dictator. And this guy parties. In 2018, Teddy had Ludacris, Akon, Jeezy, Sean Kingston all perform at his birthday party. This is a video of Luda at the party that Teddy posted.
Everybody that's born in Africa, make some noise if you're born here.
Yeah, make some noise if you're part of the roughly 45% of Equatorial Guinea's population that has a safe and reliable water source. Or the 51% that has access to proper sanitation. Yeah, all right. So let's look a little more at Teddy. The Obiangs are a great combo. A father willing to rule brutally and exploit his own nation for financial gain, and a son willing to live the most obnoxiously extravagant lifestyle possible. So first, how did the Obiangs get so powerful? Daddy Teodoro took over Equatorial Guinea in 1979, leading a coup against his own uncle and executing him at his infamous Black Beach prison. Cool family, man. Later, Equatorial Guinea struck black gold. They found oil. Their GDP jumped. But that money wasn't going to the people of Equatorial Guinea. That windfall was for one family only. Like any good kleptocrats, they didn't want to spend that new money in their own country. Gross. They wanted to spend that cash in America and Europe. This is where the infamous Riggs Bank comes in. Riggs Bank was the most important American bank you've never heard of. A lot of US presidents banked there. You could see it on the back of the original $10 bill. It loaned the US government money to fight the Mexican-American War, the purchase of Alaska, and funded the invention of the telegraph. Riggs set up tons of accounts for the Obiangs and set up shell corporations in the Bahamas for them. Riggs just did everything for them before it all came crashing down after 9/11. And one of the few examples of the offshore getting punished in America, Riggs Bank eventually folded under pressure from Senate investigations and huge fines. RIP to this OG corrupt institution. Bless up to the bankers in the sky. So 9/11 and its regulatory aftermath, like the Patriot Act, brought in strict regulations around money laundering and banking, seemingly ruining the Obiang's sweet little offshore setup. I almost forgot, we're in the fucking offshore, and the rich always come out on top. All it took was a few industries to lobby for loopholes and get temporary exceptions to post 9/11 money laundering regulations. Things like real estate, escrow accounts, private equity management, hedge funds, luxury cars, private jets, and auction houses. That list of exemptions was like an offshore playbook to setting up a playboy life in the USA. And Teddy is the kleptobrat playboy. In the 2000s, Teddy was living in his Malibu palace that he bought for $30 million. A 15,000 square foot mansion with a golf course, tennis courts, and 2 pools with spectacular Pacific views. Teddy owned at least 32 sports cars, and one time he apparently parked his Bugatti near a club, saw onlookers admiring it, and sent his driver home to bring another Bugatti that he could park next to it so he'd have 2 Bugattis to show off. 2? What? 2 of them? Damn. I gotta get like this. Ugh. He owned high-performance speedboats and a Gulfstream 5 jet he bought through a shell company. He dated models and the rapper Eve. He went through a party for her on a yacht he rented for $700,000. He got a German boat builder to draw up plans for a 200-foot custom yacht that would have a shark tank on board, a movie theater, and fingerprint-operated doors, all for just $380 million. Can you make this for me? And I want the shark on the boat. But remember the cardinal rule of the offshore. Keep a low profile. Don't be too loud. This guy was loud! His life was the most lavish, insane life you can possibly imagine. Except, he made it even insaner. Teddy was obsessed with Michael Jackson, and with dirty money burning in his pocket, he decided to become the planet's largest collector of Michael Jackson memorabilia. He bought an MTV Moon Man Award, the gold record from Beat It, a basketball signed by both Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan, an autographed red jacket from the Thriller music video, life-size statues of Michael that he put around his Malibu mansion. And the grand prize, for $160,000, he bought the famous white crystal-covered glove. Jamona! Remember the exemptions in the Patriot Act? One of them is in the auction industry. They essentially have no obligation to look into where their money comes from or who's buying overpriced Michael Jackson memorabilia. So all Teddy had to do was get his secretary to do the bidding in person, transfer the money over from Equatorial Guinea, and ask the auction houses not to put his name on anything. Michael Jackson's stuff is in the hands of a smooth criminal, but not too smooth. ICE, a US government organization mostly known for deporting illegal immigrants, has a department dedicated to anti-corruption. It basically exists to stop kleptocrats running their money through America, and this anti-corruption team was looking for an example case. All of Teddy's flaunting in the tabloids led them to his boat purchases. Hey, excuse me, you seen this guy around? And then very soon, they also found out about the Michael Jackson memorabilia and the glove. So in October 2011, ICE and the Department of Justice went after Teddy and his assets. Teddy's lawyer said, okay, we won't take any of these assets out of the US while we all sort of figure this out. Teddy reportedly sent one of his staff to Malibu with one job: get as much Michael Jackson memorabilia out of the country and into Equatorial Guinea. He also took anything that wasn't nailed down, most of his cars and his jet. 2 days later, his guy flew to Equatorial Guinea, taking with him the most famous glove in the world. Kleptocrats like the Obiangs use their power to exploit their country, taking money that could help their people and spending it on themselves and their kids. So what happened with Teddy? He's a VP in his country now. He's jet setting and yachting and posting everything on Instagram. And actually, in 2014, he posted a lot of photos of Michael Jackson memorabilia, including the white glove. Are the kleptocrats the bad guys of this story? Sure. But America is also complicit for leaving these loopholes wide open for them to send their dirty money through. Equatorial Guinea's vast oil reserves are almost exclusively tapped by American oil companies that make tremendous profits. Then, all the money from the country's natural resources go to one corrupt family that spends it all on luxury goods in America. In 2009, a diplomatic cable from the US Embassy in the country advised that the door is wide open for the US to exercise significant influence and push the aging president to institute democratic reforms. They said, after all, we, via the US oil companies, pay all their bills, and the Equatorial Guinea leadership knows it. The US talks a big game about all the money lost in the offshore to Switzerland and the Cayman Islands, but for the rest of the world, the offshore is the good old USA. The US is the offshore now. It used to be Switzerland, then it was the Caymans and the islands and all that, the offshore. Now it is the USA. That's what's happening. That's what I'm trying to get across in this episode right now. We were the offshore the whole time? That was Offshore. I'll see you on the beach next week.